Alright, got the F150 in the shop. The front end's been making some noise over the last month. It's been slowly getting worse. Put it up in the air, drive it in four-wheel drive. Sounds like it's coming from the pinion. But it also sounds like one of the wheel bearings has got a little bit of noise as well. Dorman has sent me an upgraded set of IWEs that are supposed to be better than the factory ones. But they've also sent me a lockout set of IWEs, so you can leave everything connected as your four-wheel drive stuff, but they're locked out. They'll never operate normal again to disengage and engage. I like running the lockouts because I have my hubs locked out right now. I disconnected the switch, or I disconnected the vacuum line and capped it at the actual switch, so it stays, the hubs in front stay locked in and they don't chatter. But I'm going to run the new IWEs, the ones that you can actually engage and disengage the four-wheel drive from Dorman, and we're going to go from there. But I'll show you guys the difference between the two here in a second.
Let's see the thing.
So this is the standard IWE, the one that's supposed to be like, it's an OE fix, 600305, four-wheel drive locking hub. I think this is from like 2011 to like 2020, because in 21 they went to an electronic actuated over air, where this is just air. And this is the one that's got the diaphragm that moves in and out. It's normally released with vacuum, but then here's the other style. So the 600305 is the regular style. The delete IWE is this one. It's a solid ring. It doesn't move in and out. It's just a solid ring. You can still hook your vacuum lines on so they still simulate like they're working, but they're not. And the part number for them is 600405. And this is your lockout kit, so you don't have to worry about IWE failure anymore. This is their four-wheel drive anti-evaporative emission solenoid. Comes in this little box right here. Let's go ahead and get this thing up in the air and get the front wheels off of it and start pulling CV axles and stuff out. Alright, got the front wheels pulled off, 21mm lug nuts. And I went ahead and took the caps off of the CV axle where it comes into the hub. Now I'm going to take a pry bar and stick it up underneath the spring and pull down right here while I take an 18mm and zip this nut off of here. You see I got my 18mm nut off the top there. I've got this pulled forward. I got the first take these lines off. I take these loose and try to give myself as much room as possible. A couple 10mm, 8mm, and I take all this stuff here loose, just loose enough to get this to hang out. And then I kind of pull the CV axle back out of the joint and I fight it a little bit. And then I pull it up in between this gap right here, between the sway bar link and the strut. And then I wiggle it out of there. And sometimes it's very hard to get it to pass the snap ring right here on the front end. You're gonna have to use a pry bar and have somebody help pull on it at the same time. Pry bar typically pries it out of there, but it is hard. You're gonna sometimes have to. I had to have another guy come over and help me on the other side while I was prying. He was yanking on the end of the CV axle at the same time, and I finally got that one out as well. So this is where we're at over here. You see the front end is exposed. The next step is taking the bolts out for the front end and then actually lowering it down. So, oh yeah, and the front drive shaft. If you look here in the corner right there, right behind that U-joint for the steering sector, that nut right there is an 18mm. That needs to come out. And then there is, all right, so we're under the vehicle now. You see this bolt I have loose right here? It's a 21mm up there, I believe. Where is it at? No. Yeah, that's it. There's a 21mm there. There's an 18mm here, but you got to get it on the other side. I would use a ratcheting wrench. And then, like I said, there's the 18. It's up in that corner behind the sector shaft right there. Those are the three bolts that are holding this front end in here, literally. And then the front end is almost ready to drop right down. So I'm going to take those out of there, and then we'll be back. To mention real quick is if you look up inside, it's, where the heck is it at? There's a slot. I forget. Whenever you take the bolt out, there is a little groove. Oh yeah, right there. You see that groove right there? That groove has a special nut that slides up in there. It looks like this. This slides up in that slot. I use a magnet and I push it up in there. And then I take my bolt from the top that was up there behind the steering shaft and I slide it in and I start to thread it in by hand. After you pull the cross member out of it, at 15 to 18 millimeter, you're gonna get some corrosion and stuff building up inside those holes from the dissimilar metals. You got steel bolts inside an aluminum frame. The 10 millimeters all the way around the drive shaft need to come loose, and once they come loose, now it's sitting down here, it's ready to come out. Now I can take this thing and move it around by hand. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pivot this corner down, and then I'm gonna slide the assembly out of there kind of on an angle towards the oil pan right here. All right, it's out. Got it sitting on top of this garbage can. I'm gonna rebuild it right here. Get the cover off, get the fluid drain, and then let's do an inspection to see where it failed. So I identified the point of failure. The point of failure was the actual pinion bearing. You can see how it's wearing, and my nail is catching the, and it got hot somehow. You can see it got hot. There's the race for it. There's the, this is the tool that I'm using to extract all that. You just make this nice and snug, get it as far under as you can without killing it, and then use this to extract it from here, pull it right off. And then you got your shim on the backside that you can kind of go off of as your guide on setting your new pinion up. I got the new side bearing in, the new race for the pinion installed, the like little oil baffle thing, the race on the other side, and now I'm starting to slowly put everything back together. So the pinion is installed with the pinion bearing. It's got the spacer on one side. I slid it through. There's the oil baffle in the middle. And then on this side, I dropped the pinion bearing on, the oil slinger on, and then I went ahead and put the flange on and got it, used the old nut to pull it in as much as possible. And then I switched out the old nut and then put the new nut on there, and made sure I greased everything. Obviously, I made sure everything was oiled before I did this. And then you got to use an old school adapter here. You can see I start to break right at 23, 24. Turning torque, and the spec is 16 to 29 inch-pounds. And this is an inch-pound torque wrench, and I'm at 23. So I'm right in between. Now I can start putting everything back together, get my carrier and stuff set in, and then we're good.